So we're here at the Green Accelerator event in Davos at the World Economic Forum, where impact investors are meeting with people with impactful solutions for dealing with the climate emergency. We've got another wonderful guest here. Could you say who you are and where you're from?
My name is David McBay, and I'm from Palo Alto, California. And I'm the inventor of molten salt geothermal energy technology worldwide.
Okay, so molten salt geothermal energy technology. We have geothermal developing in certain parts of the world, don't we? Kenya, for example, Indonesia, where there are hot rocks under the earth. You can harvest the steam and you can generate renewable energy from that steam, driving turbines. What's a bit different about yours versus the conventional geothermal we have right now?
Well, what we do is we go for the supercritical heat of the earth. So above the temperatures that conventional geothermal can function at.
Right.
We concentrate on temperatures over 374 Celsius, which is a temperature when H2O no longer can be water. It now becomes the fourth state of H2O, and that is supercritical fluid. When it becomes a supercritical fluid, it becomes 150 times less dense than water. We have the only thermal transfer fluid for collecting the heat of the earth that stays a liquid over that temperature. So now we maintain a density that brings us 75 to 100 times the volumetric heat capacity that a supercritical fluid would. Now, it pumps just the same as water would at a lower temperature, but when we get it to the surface now, we have the world's first storage for geothermal as well in the molten salt. So this pretty much provides the geothermal companies with an ability to sell their product, the energy, at the highest rate that they can get for it. Also, it provides load following and dispatchable energy when needed. And basically, if you look at it this way, people think of geothermal 24 hours, 7 days a week. Well, why should energy be the one item that is sold at the price of the time of day it is, instead of what it's really worth? So that's what we provide for the existing conventional geothermal companies, of way that they can now transform their businesses into a much more profitable business. And when it comes to turning around climate change, this is a game changer because it's all about storage.
So that's interesting. So basically you're taking the geothermal energy and you are providing a storage system for this high temperature geothermal. Is that correct? So,
that's correct.
Right. So if I had a geothermal plant, imagine I was in Kenya and I had a geothermal plant, and I presume you have to drill a little bit differently to get this.
Well, you do. You drill deeper, but not necessarily super deep.
Right.
There's lots of places around the world, such as Kenya, the East African Rift Valley, where the temperatures are found very, very close to the surface at temperatures that exceed the temperature that water turns to a supercritical fluid. We don't need, we're a closed loop.
Okay.
So we don't need any geofluids in the earth at all. We only need the heat.
Right.
And we only bring up the heat. We don't bring up any other fluids. We don't have any problem with nasty fluids that come up and turn into hydrogen sulfide and that sort of thing. And by doing that, we don't have to worry about polluting the groundwater. We don't do like some companies that are fracking and causing problems with earthquakes and so forth. So, and we're the original closed loop. I had my first patent granted for closed loop in June 25th of 2019, which is 6 months ahead of any of the other companies that I won't name that are potentially basically borrowing our technology.
Right.
But yeah,
but the key difference here then is that from a conventional geothermal power plant, you can actually take that energy and store it in these salts. Is that correct?
Well,
and then dispatch it when you want to?
We don't necessarily need to be a conventional geothermal. I was using that as an example of how they could do it. We basically look for the super high temperature resources that are close to the surface, such as where in Iceland, where there's areas that it's 430 Celsius, only about 3,000 meters down. In Japan, there's a well that's already drilled. It's 580 Celsius, 3,700 meters down. So in a well like that, that's already drilled, we'll just go in and we'll put in a concentric well, a pipe within a pipe, and we'll put the molten salt at a temperature of 150 Celsius down along the outside of the inside pipe, if that makes sense, down to the heat zone, heated up to 500 Celsius, which is hotter than anyone's ever had geothermal ever heated before. And then it comes up the internal pipe and it comes to the surface as a super, super hot fluid that now has energy densities of 10 times what you would get from a conventional geothermal.
I'm glad we got to that. So you potentially 10 times the energy is going to be delivered versus the conventional geothermal power plant.
That's right, and 75 to 100 times the volumetric heat capacity. So in other words, for every cubic meter of molten salt at 500 Celsius, you need 75 to 100 cubic meters of supercritical fluid.
Okay, so you mentioned in your presentation Oman. You mentioned Iceland just now, of course, and Kenya. There's Indonesia that's got some great potential as well, and there are many other places. Why Oman, though? What is the connection with Oman? Does that have geothermal as well?
Well, Oman has, not only do they have existing wells that are already drilled, but those are low temperature, but those we can also utilize because we're saving money on the drilling costs. And we're using something that would be turning a liability that they have now, because those wells have to be plugged, those wells have to be taken care of. Now we're turning those liability into assets.
So you're giving them a new life.
We're giving them a new life. And
with a renewable energy.
With renewable energy and showing the Omani government and the people of Oman that now what we can do. But Oman has a high potential close to the Red Sea place that is over 400 Celsius, 12.5 kilometers down. All of Saudi Arabia is 12.5 kilometers down, 400 Celsius. All of Yemen. So we've now had the whole Middle East has been mapped out. And quite frankly, we're there because we've been accepted there. There's a lot of politics involved in the climate change solution. There's a lot of players that don't really want a solution. They're just after the carbon credits. They're after the different, there's a lot of different politics involved. So we've gone at basically the point of least resistance. We've met some beautiful people that embrace us, start a joint venture, and so that's why we go there.
Well, look, it sounds absolutely fascinating. Best of luck with this work.
Thank you very much.
I hope it goes well.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time and thanks for your support.
Very much.